Hello, shipmates of the seven seas. My name is Ikenna Epin Idika. You can call me Poet of the Seven Seas. I'm making this video regarding my post a few days back. I posted a riddle which has raised a dust of answers, and I'm here to give an answer to this riddle and also to explain why that is the answer and also to give clarifications on this riddle. Okay, I wrote this riddle while I was meditating, and I remember this poem I wrote back in 2020, which is titled "A Seafarer I Am." You can check this poem out on my YouTube channel, Poet of the Seven Seas, at Ikenna Epinica. Okay, I wrote this poem during the COVID era in 2020, when during the Day of the Seafarers. I wrote this poem trying to portray seafarers as key essential workers, and who hold up the economy of the world, doing their bits in the lonely part of the sea, being isolated from the rest of the world. So while I remember this poem, I was just meditating on this poem, and I just came out from the engine room, and I just had this just that spark, and I decided to write this riddle. And the riddle says, "I am a missionary on board a ship, always lonely and isolated from other missionaries, just like a seafarer is isolated from the rest of the world, but yet very essential. What am I?" So what do you think is the answer? So I've gotten many reactions and many answers. Okay, some people say the answer is the bow thruster, being that the bow thruster is always on the forward of the ship. Some people say the rudder, being that the rudder is at the back of the ship. Some people said propeller. Some people said steering gear. Some people mentioned anchor. Okay, some people mentioned the windlass. Some even mentioned the gyro compass. What else? I have gotten many answers, and one of the closest answer to this riddle was the emergency fire pump. And I'm not just being sentimental about this, but looking at regulations and looking at the ship construction and design of a ship, looking at the SOLAS convention, you'll be able to get the correct answer for this riddle. Okay, so as I said, the closest answer was the emergency fire pump, but that is not the answer. Okay, so let us look at the regulation, the SOLAS regulation guiding emergency fire pump. I'm not going to read this regulation because it's very long. I'm trying to keep this video as short as possible. Okay, but I'm going to just pinpoint or just pick out a point from the regulation guiding emergency fire pump. Okay, so emergency fire pump, they said it should be located outside the engine room. Okay, it can be in the steering gear, shaft tunnel, or in the forward part of the ship. Okay, so meaning if it's in the steering gear, in the steering flat, okay, that's in the steering gear room, it has the steering gear as its neighbor, so meaning it's not isolated. Okay, because the steering gear is another machinery and the fire pump is another machinery, so meaning it's not isolated. Okay, if it's in the forward part of the ship, okay, there are also other machineries there in the forward part of the ship. Maybe if the ship has a bow thruster, it should be close to the bow thruster also, as it should be located along or somewhere around the bow thruster thereabouts also. So meaning it's not isolated. It can also be in the shaft tunnel also. So meaning the fire pump is not isolated. Okay. So but when we look deep into the regulation of the SOLAS regulations, chapter 2 of SOLAS regulation, regulation 42 and 43 would give us this particular machinery. Okay, so I'm going to just read out the key points so that you will be able to get the answer of this riddle, and SOLAS will be able to guide us properly. And I believe also with your experience being on board several ships, you'll be able to agree with me that this is the answer of this riddle. Okay, now one of the points says the emergency generator, which is the source of electrical supply, should be located outside the main and auxiliary machinery space. That's number one. Shall be located above the uppermost continuous deck and be readily accessible. That's number two. It shall not be located forward part of the collision bulkhead. So with this, which machinery comes to your mind? The emergency generator, of course. We can see the location of the emergency generator, and you can agree with me that the emergency generator is that lonely machinery, very, very lonely, very, very isolated from every other machinery. and just the same way the seafarer is isolated from the rest of the world, but very, very essential. Very, very essential. I mean, seafarers are very, very essential. You can agree with me, because we keep the world's economy going. We keep the world's economy booming. So without seafarers, no shipping, no shopping. You can also do well to follow me on all my social media handles, and check out my poems on YouTube, Poets of the Seven Seas on X, formerly Twitter, Poets of the Seven Seas at Ikenna Epin, and also on Facebook, Poets of the Seven Seas, on LinkedIn, Ikenna Epin, on TikTok, Poets of the Seven Seas at Ikenna Epin. So thank you for your reactions, and thank you for sharing your knowledge, and thank you for engaging. Thank you, and God bless you.